what I have been talking about a lot lately is ChatGPT. So what you're telling me is I'm making myself dumber.
No. I'm meeting with families, talking and connecting with people. That's really where my role is.
All the things that we could be spending our time on to grow our business, me sitting 6-8 hours cleaning my house, that is stealing from my business and business potential.
We all need to take responsibility for our community on a local scale and know where we are and what we can bring and contribute.
If we could snap our fingers and everybody thought about their own community in that way, I would have to worry about what's going on the other side of the world. Hi, welcome to the podcast. My name is Sarah Ray. I'm a creative entrepreneur in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I have a very special guest on the Unleashable podcast today, the podcast where we talk about Chattanooga business for Chattanooga business with Chattanooga business owners. So, very special guest. We have Michelle here today. You want to give a little introduction to who you are?
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Michelle Hecker Davis, and I'm the owner and executive director of Learning RX, which is a brain training center, not a tutoring center like a lot of people think. And we do cognitive skills training and development one-on-one, like a personal trainer for all ages. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do.
Oh, so it's not just kids.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Actually, ages 5 and up, but my oldest client is 84.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. It just runs the gamut.
Well, everyone has a brain, and I would argue that every brain needs exercise, especially in the world that we live in, where there's a lot of technology or technological advances that are coming in and doing work for us.
Right.
So there's a lot of data that shows writing, for example, is a great way to exercise parts of your brain that when we stop writing and type everything, we're losing our brain's opportunity to develop those skills. It's the same thing with remembering phone numbers or our grocery list and putting them in our phone instead of remembering them. It changes the way that we can retain things, following our GPS instead of using our own visual processing. And now with ChatGPT taking over our brain's opportunity to use our own logic and reasoning, there's just a lot more need ongoing for regular brain exercise because it's not happening naturally.
That is fascinating because a lot of what I have been talking about a lot lately is ChatGPT. So what you're telling me is I'm making myself dumber.
No. And that's the thing is ChatGPT is awesome. I love interacting with it and you can find out so much. So it's like a, enhanced internet search browser. It's so cool. You can find out anything. But when you're having ChatGPT do problem solving for you, again, you're just taking away your brain's opportunity to problem solve itself. And it's kind of like when everyone was really fit physically, because when everyone walked everywhere, like before cars, and we just live in a world of convenience. And so we have the highest obesity rates, and everyone's kind of, you have to put extra attention and care into exercising your body. Gyms exist, because of that, even though we have the capability to keep healthy, active bodies, it's hard to do ourselves. And my brain training center does the same thing for your brain. It creates exercise, purposeful, intensive, and with long-term changes as the goal.
That is fascinating. I am honestly a little terrified for myself and intrigued by that whole concept because I am finding, as you were listing off things like remembering phone numbers and how to get places and stuff like that, that is, because definitely, when I was in high school, I knew probably 30 phone numbers.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, yes.
Ask me to remember. I know my husband's phone number. Literally, that's it. Barely.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Just reflecting on that. And even places that I've driven, I'll think sometimes I know where I'm going. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I don't actually. I've been here a bunch of times, but for some reason, I forget to turn right on this one road and then you're lost.
Yeah, and the initial reaction is, oh, I'll just use my GPS and then I'll get there every time. Well, that's if the goal is to get there and arrive somewhere. And when I think about brain training, I think about the goal is to practice, or it's in the process, kind of that phrase life is what's in the journey, not the destination. And your brain is the same thing. But people like to think about it what could be easier for their brain. And I'm over here going, what could be more challenging? Because that'll give me good exercise today.
That is such an interesting concept too. As as we move forward and as AI becomes more and more and more integrated into our lives, the idea of, like you said, we are going to have to start being intentional about exercising our brain. I've never thought, and what an opportunity as a business, honestly. Yeah, that's kind of what I see as well.
I actually see the future of education having more to do with cognitive exercise, it being more of a requirement. I mean, truthfully, when they took, required music and art and all these things out, they're now taking out spelling, they're taking out learning a new language, all these requirements. Those are things that actually exercise your brain. And so, even though the focus has become heavily on reading and math, I know that there has to be a core brain set to be able to do that. And so I do work with a lot of kids who are struggling and kind of slipping through the cracks in our education system. And that is kind of where my heart lies, I think. But then I also am very well aware that these skills will continue to be with us after school is over, and that we're moving in the direction of, again, requiring cognitive training, cognitive brain exercise, because of how we're setting ourselves up in the world. It's very interesting.
Yes, I'm like extremely intrigued by this. And I will say this as well. This is a common something that I have thought about in the past. There does seem to be this huge concept or idea in mainstream. You hear a lot of people talking about, like with college specifically, like, why do they make you take all of these classes and courses that you don't need for your degree? You don't need to know how to write an essay about Shakespeare in order to be an accountant or like X, Y, and Z kind of things. And they're charging you for that, and which that's a whole other conversation. It's true how expensive education is.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, there has to be, as humans, as a species, there is value associated with flexing your brains with things that are not something that you do all the time or going to pursue like as a job or career. But there is value in learning about things and doing things outside of how you make money.
Exactly right. Because, for example, someone who's going to be a welder, maybe they just learn welding and they just do welding, but their cognitive flexibility won't be there if that's the only thing they ever learn and do. And so even if a welder is going out and learning a new language on the side, or, driving a new direction than they normally go, I mean, there are ways to train your brain without college, yes, or exercise your brain. But, it's again important to think about, are you wanting to just do one thing in the same? And we are creatures of habit. We like to get into a routine and do the same thing. So, I'll hear all the time, oh, my mom does her brain exercise because she does a crossword puzzle every morning. And I think, well, then she's probably really good at crossword puzzles and that's in her routine, and that's not brain training. Brain training is doing something different. And so that's really where the onus kind of lies on us to be able to challenge ourselves. And it's hard to do. And
it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
People don't like to do things that they're not immediately good at.
That's right. And there's this a ton of research behind being in either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. This is by Carol Dweck out of Stanford, who looked at what is the big success rate here of, I think she was studying freshmen in Harvard and the dropout rate and what was happening. And every kid, once they all got into Harvard, they're all brilliant. That's fine. But as soon as they got to a challenge, something that was too hard, their fixed mindset said, I must not be good at this. I can't hang, and I'm out. Versus a growth mindset that said, ooh, here's a challenge. I'm going to figure this out. So between growth mindset and then having strong cognitive skills, I believe that's what creates a love of learning, which when I meet lifelong learners who are 80 years old and they might drop in on a college class, for free, they don't want a credit. They don't want to, they just want to learn, or they want to do something new. It just inspires me so much to see those lifelong learners. And I want to be that, I want to be able to grow and be flexible and not just get into the same old thing routine every day.
Yes. I actually think I fall victim to the reverse of that, which is I love growth so much that like I hate routine.
Yeah.
I'm one of the
like weird balls in it.
Yes. I'm one of those weird people that's like routine is so boring.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to being sort of neurodivergent, like ADHD. Like needing stimulation in a lot of different areas and ways to actually feel at peace and calm. But I recognize I am neurodivergent. Like that is not sort of the norm.
Well, and actually, that's the thing that I love about neurodivergence. And I work with a lot of, people who are ADHD or dyslexia, and there's brilliance, like an insane creativity. A lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are ADHD, dyslexic, and it is a little bit of a different functioning brain, but in that great way where not only have you overcome challenges again and again, but you can get into a growth mindset that way versus somebody who's made straight A's and never had to study their whole life. And the moment they make a mistake, they just don't do it, So it's not all about intelligence. It's not all about things being hard, being a problem. It's actually such a huge benefit. And that's part of what I love about neurodivergence. And it's kind of like a superpower, I think.
Yes, I feel so validated.
Good.
I'm trying to believe that because, as someone who's neurodivergent and like kind of growing up that way, you're taught that you're not, you don't fit in the box, that there's something wrong with you. And so you can carry a lot of shame about the fact that your brain works differently and you try to mask it and hide it, which with me, like that meant if I actually was a very high performer in high school and in college because my anxiety overrode my neurodivergence. So I had such high energy. I'll say, oh, yes, I pushed myself through everything because of this sort of pressure to perform and to do well. And so, yeah, that's really,
I actually hear that a lot. And maybe it's just the world that I'm in and I talk about this a lot, but almost everybody I talk to, I guess they feel comfortable to share a struggle. And I'm like, everyone has there's not an idea that you don't struggle, but we were raised in this kind of era where you don't talk about it, you cover it up. It's not okay to have a struggle. And that's what I want to shift and change is we don't have to define it that way. If we shift the way we think about hard things, it opens us up to being able to do so much more.
Yeah, like getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes. Like if you're not uncomfortable, you're probably not pushing yourself.
Yeah.
You're probably not
growing.
Yes. And growing is life.
Yes. Well, if you're not growing, you are dying.
Yes, exactly. If you're not living, you're not. I love that. This is fantastic. So what got you into this field? How did you come to own a brain training center?
Well, I was actually a really boring accountant. Not bored before that. And I, was in corporate accounting for maybe 2 years and it was life draining for me. And so I actually became a trainer for the very first brain training center that opened in Chattanooga in 2010. And I was kind of just interested in it. I was doing it part-time as a trainer, as an employee. And my first student was a fourth grader on the second grade reading level. Everyone, her teachers, people around her, adults were saying it's time for medication. While her mom, who was a nurse, was like, I really don't think that's the issue. I don't want to cover this up. Like, I want to find out what's going on. I want to dig deeper. So she became one of my first students. And after 6 months, she was on reading level, on a roll for the first time, never had to get on medication. I mean, we literally went to the root of her attention and reading issues, trained them, and changed the whole trajectory of her life, which that student, by the way, and she was kind of like what sold me on this methodology being amazing because I watched it happen. And she ended up going to Southern University and getting her master's and did her internship with me years later. And so we talk about how she's a social worker now. And it's just like she recognizes how this changed the trajectory of her life, this training she did for 6 months. And from my perspective, it got me so on board with this and the potential, the possibility. So I ended up doing all this training. I'm now on board certified cognitive specialist. I ran the center for about 10 years before I bought it from the previous owner. So that's kind of like how I got to this, but I bought it in 2022.
Wow. So what's that been like, transitioning from
employee?
Yes, and a owner. What has that been like?
Well, I'm in a unique situation, I think, where I was actually running the center for so long as the director, and the previous owner was very hands-off in the best way possible. He gave me the power. And that's one of the things that I see, because a lot of business owners are like, I wish there was two of me. I wish somebody else could do what I do, but nobody can replace me. Like I have the thing. And that's the thing is that you've got to be able to give some power and control to someone else. And that's very hard for a business owner to do. If you want someone to take it over or run it, you can't also run it your way. And so he let me run it my way. And because of that, I took full ownership before I bought it. You know what I mean? It was my center. And so, it worked out for both of us because for him, he wanted that for me. He didn't, he eventually was able to sell it to me. And that was kind of his goal. He never wanted, he wanted to bring this educational kind of methodology to Chattanooga, but he was an engineer. He wasn't like, it was like a business venture for him rather than like a passion. So he found the person with the passion who could eventually take over. And I would like to not that easy to smooth. It is. And I would like to, I'm growing the business and I love it and I always want to be a part of it. I would love to be able to hand it off to someone who has this passion to continue to grow it. I don't feel like there's competition. I don't feel like there's, we're all in a community together and I am just such a collaborator. I don't have competition at all. I mean, I refer to tutoring businesses and other places if it's going to be helpful for the client. And so I just want to continue to grow that.
That is so poignant for me specifically right now because I have been thinking a lot about the concept of building a business that is scalable. So in a way that is not just hinged on me, something that is bigger than me. And I love how you said that about it's so difficult for business owners to sort of wrap their head around being able to sort of hand off their baby.
Yes. It's hard. And, I love a book by Mike Michalowicz that's called, I think it's just called Clockwork. You could find it that way. But it's really about sort of finding what he calls it Queen Bee role, your QBR. What is your thing that you do that you bring to the business? And if you're doing anything else, if you're sending an invoice, that's not your role. You need to find other people to do the roles that are not your thing. And so I love that because it got me thinking about where I'm spending my time. Turns out if you record your time, do a check, you're maybe 20% of your day is spent doing the thing that is your golden thing that you bring to the business. And if you're not doing that, you need to be handing it off to someone else. And that's how you can really scale. And of course, you have to get up to the point where you have employees and,
which sometimes takes time.
It does take time to build.
And, even before you get to the level of scaling, like for me, hiring an editor in my photography business, like I heard another photographer talking about anything that you are doing that is not actively growing your business is something that you should be handing off to someone else. So like, for example, honestly, like cleaning my house, which is like when you're a solopreneur, like that's a part of your day. That's part of what you have to do. Right. Yeah. And so I'm like, so me spending 6 hours cleaning my house is not making me money. Right. Whereas I'm the only person that can make me money. Me working on networking, building relationships, social media, all the things that we could be spending our time on to grow our business, maintain relationships, making sure that all of your clients are well cared for, all of those kinds of things. Me spending 6-8 hours cleaning my house, that is stealing from my business and business potential, essentially.
Yeah.
And so if I can also give a job to someone else who's maybe their passion is cleaning or something, then I can give back to them in that way, also pay them well for their time. And then that will ultimately have a positive ROI.
You have that time back.
Yes. Because then I'm doing things that are going to build and grow and make me more money in the thing that is my queen bee, right? Like role.
That's right. And I love thinking about, and this is kind of a traditional piece of advice, but thinking about finding the weak areas that you have in someone else that those are their strengths, because then you can really go further when you have someone. I am horrible at throwing like events, parties, planning, doing like decoration. That's not my thing. So I find people who do that and they love that. That fills their cup. They have so much fun with it and that's their job and they take it. And, a lot of different leadership training and books I've read and like over the years, just kind of developing that, one of my favorite things I think that I do for the team is I meet with every single one of them, and I want to understand, you may be on your way somewhere else. This may be a pass-through job. It may be long-term. We don't know. We're connected right now. So how can we make this most valuable for you? What would grow you? What would develop you? Because if you want more responsibility, how can you take that responsibility, use it to grow the business? And I will 100% give you, financial or whatever kind of support or training or something back for that, if we're in this together. But it's so helpful to know, what is your employees' queen bee role? How is your employees like thing that feeds their soul? Because if somebody's not lit up by what they do, and especially in my business, like, that's okay. Go find something that lights you up.
Yeah, yeah. Like you don't have you don't have to do things you don't want to do. Spoiler alert. You don't. I feel like that a lot of people in life, and something I'm really passionate about, is helping, especially women, feel unstuck. Like no matter where you are, what job you have, no matter where you are, you don't have, especially in the United States, thanks to God, like for the country that we have and that we have the privileges that we do here. But in this state for now, we have, you don't have to feel stuck. Like sometimes feeling stuck is based on your own self-limiting belief.
It's a mindset.
Yes.
I 100% believe that.
Yeah, because there are probably opportunities that you don't see, but if you just open your mind to it and sometimes take a risk or take a leap of faith, and sometimes it takes bravery and courage to be able to get yourself unstuck, but you can do it. And there's one thing that I could like shout from the rooftops is, as you don't have to feel stuck in your life. You always have something.
Yes.
Even if it's just a mindset shift that can make you feel freer.
You have to take action to change. You have to, and you're the only one who can do it. No one else can make changes for you. And so I do think I hear, a lot of times, and it is a lot of times women, I'm sure men too, but get in this sort of victim mentality of, all my life I've had this problem and this problem, and it's kind of like, you can view it that way. Everyone has stuff and pronouns and things going on, or you can look at what other kinds of things are available. I mean, there's so much to navigate, and it is hard, but it is absolutely possible.
And some people 100% have more challenges than others. Like, I'm a believer, we're not all born on the same starting line. We're not all born with the same privilege, the same set of skills, the same opportunities. Like, we're definitely not all born in the same place, and things are definitely easier for some people than they are others.
Yeah.
And set up for success versus they are others. But that doesn't mean that anybody has to feel stuck in their situation. Like, at some point you have to take some level of accountability for your own loss.
And when your mindset goes into that growth mindset of, I love a challenge, it changes your perspective on doing hard things. And I almost feel bad for people who have it really easy and don't have a lot of challenges, because they're not very resilient, maybe, And so there's pros and cons to every situation. And I am certainly an optimist, like glass half full, because I choose to be, and I'm happier that way.
Yeah, absolutely same. Like, my husband and I had this argument because my best friend and my husband will often refer to me as delusionally optimistic. Sometimes you just like, you want it to be, I just do that. Sometimes I am a little delulu about how well things are going to go or not. And he always says, he's a realist. I'm like, you've never ever looked at that glass and thought it was half full. So, like, realism implies balance there, and there's not a lot of that.
Oh yeah, yep.
But yeah, I love this, and I also want to say, like, when we were talking about other people on your team or outsourcing essentially different tasks, like if you're a solopreneur and like maybe you don't have the resources or the size of a business that can, warrant bringing on a full-time employee, but maybe you could outsource certain tasks, like in my case in photography, like editing, or in my case, like, house cleaning or something like that, like having like smaller pieces that you can, and like you were saying, like, fill other people's cups
Yes.
in different
Well,
ways.
and one of my, because I was an accountant in a past life in a different background, it was very easy for me to send invoices and process payroll and do that. And so I did that for years and years. And I was like, this is so easy. I don't need to give it up. But then when I got into the perspective of, if I'm going to grow, I have to find out what is, that's not my, my meeting with families, talking and connecting with people. That's really where my role is. And so, so I got a bookkeeper, and I mean, I'm talking, I pay her $300 to $500 a month, something, to process all my payroll, to do all my, it's negligible. It saves me money and time. And so, getting to that point, I mean, I held on to that one for a long time, probably 5 years before I let it go, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I held on to that for so long.
Right.
So there's all little things like that.
Sometimes it's like an emotional connection and like attachment that you may have to certain tasks that you really just need to recognize that maybe this isn't your biggest strength, and maybe there's someone else that would actually be better at this or bring something to the table that you never thought of.
And especially when you can do a lot of things, like a lot of business owners, like, they're very talented. They can do several different things, but it doesn't mean you need to be doing all those things just because you can and you like to and you enjoy it. So I love reading that book. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I definitely am going to pick that up because it's something that is especially poignant for me right now as I've been looking at like expanding my team a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, recognizing like what I can let go. And I got to say, as a business owner, one of the biggest game changers for me is recognizing what we're talking about and like giving myself some time back is sort of, a lot of us get into business ownership because we love what we do, but also because we ultimately want to be able to step back. But it's hard for us to do that at the same time. It's this weird, like, paradox.
It is.
Because we don't want to be working. Like most of us, especially when we start, we're working 60, 80-hour weeks sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to let that go, but we have to recognize like we can't do that forever. Like, and eventually we're gonna have to like.
I mean, I would say every business owner listening can resonate with that.
Yeah,
and it's yes.
You have to figure out, and sometimes starting small, like one little thing at a time. So tell me a little bit about, so obviously like kids who are struggling like in school, like that seems like an obvious sort of like those are definitely people that are going to seek you out and you can help. Can you give me some examples of other kinds of situations, like as adults or people, different clients that you see that seek you out? What does that look?
So I think it'll be helpful for me to just really briefly overview the specific cognitive skills that we train and develop, because there are 7 that affect kind of our learning process the most. And those are the 7 skills we target and train. We actually test for them so we can find strengths and weaknesses on a profile. One is attention skills, and there's different types of attention. So your ability to sustain attention and stay on task versus your ability to selectively attend to the task and tune out distractions versus your ability to divide your attention between tasks. So maybe you're listening to a podcast and sweeping at the same time, but you can do both things. So that's when people think multitasking, they're thinking about divided attention. So attention is a skill area that's trainable. I will talk to somebody and they know without a test if they have an attention issue or not. And they know when they have an attention issue, usually on non-preferred tasks versus when they don't, So that's one of the skill areas related to attention and the executive functioning skill set. So the executive in our brain that tells us what to do, how to do it, analyzes how we did it. We use our working memory and our processing speed. So our working memory is that skill where we open up a new tab in our brain window and then we're able to move throughout the tabs. Now, when somebody struggles with that, they often walk into a room and go, what am I doing in this room? Or they need to start over. They get a text and it interrupts something and then they're like, what the heck was I just doing? Working memory allows us to hold tasks short term. Lots of business owners have to have great working memory because if not, it's going to be very inefficient. So a lot of business owners train that skill. Processing speed is another one that just, between processing speed and working memory, they affect your attention. They affect your efficiency. So it's not that you And in fact, a lot of business owners that I have worked with and trained, and I've trained doctors, I've trained presidents of companies, all different walks of life, usually have very high logic and reasoning, meaning we have the ability to problem solve, think outside the box, figure out a solution, but we might have to answer that email like after 10 attempts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like inefficiency um in the executive functioning, like that process, but then high logic, great visual processing. I bet your visual processing is fantastic as a photographer because you've got to be able to think about, whether it's framing, whether it's where things are in relation to other things, that all is, happening in your mind's eye, where some people literally cannot see in their mind's eye. They cannot picture images in their mind.
Mhm.
And so that's a skill, again, that's trainable. Logic and reasoning, visual processing, and then long-term memory. Can we retain information? And then auditory processing has to do with not just processing what we hear, but it's our brain's ability to sort of interpret from sound, language processing. It can affect reading. And so when those skills are working more efficiently, it makes your brain work more efficiently and go through, but you may have any combination of strengths or weaknesses in those areas. So someone with ADHD is probably going to struggle with executive dysfunction, the efficiency part, but then probably have some major strengths in those higher thinking skills versus someone with dyslexia who might struggle with auditory processing, sound analysis, reading doesn't make sense, but also brilliant visual, brilliant logic. There's just so many different combinations that our brains are like a fingerprint. They're totally different. So I like to do the evaluation with folks to just go, okay, here's your skill set. What do we do with this? Is this getting in your way or not? And if it's not, great. If it is, let's do something about it and let's train that weak area.
I feel like this is really like, I feel like while you were talking, like light bulb could have like gone above my head because just the idea of that these are skills that are trainable, that there are things that you may not currently be good at, but your brain is actually capable of improving upon them. That to me,
You're
is like
right.
a game changer.
I have to back up because I forget that, when I learned that, it was a light bulb for me with that student. And I was like, this is amazing. Okay, these skills are changeable, full steam ahead. And I forget that, I mean, it's really not common knowledge. You hear that and you go, really? Can you? It almost sounds like unbelievable. Yeah. But I've trained at this point now hundreds of students, and the shift, it's completely changes their life. It sounds dramatic, but it's true.
Oh, it is.
So for me, it's like, yeah, of course we can. But it's when I talk to people about it for the first time, it's like you said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you can change that. Because people think, oh, I just don't have a math brain.
Right. I just don't have born with that skill.
Fixed mindset.
That
It's
is
like,
wild to me. I'm like, I need to make an appointment. Because like I really struggle that when you were saying that about executive dysfunction and being able to I have even described to my therapist about when my ADHD is when I'm feeling dysregulated, it feels like there are multiple tabs open in my brain and I struggle. I feel like if I don't go back and touch all of them like almost in a panicky kind of way,
yeah,
they're going to disappear because they do sometimes.
because that's working memory and yeah, exhausting.
Yes, it is.
Exhausting. And that's the thing when I think about your brain's efficiency and training these skills, the goal is not to fix anything. It's not to change your person. It's just to help you feel not so overwhelmed and exhausted because your brain can work just a little bit better. It literally grows neural pathways. And by the way, in the past 10 years, there have been 15 new published research studies looking at our program specifically. So we have a neuroscientist in LSU that studies us. We're in over 40 countries, this training program. So it is a worldwide situation that these programs are being developed based on. It's not just, I own the Chattanooga location, but I'm very connected with, clinical psychologists all over the world who are really working through the power of what brain training can do.
Yeah, very cool. And it sounds scientifically proven. Like, yes, it works. This isn't just
Exactly.
try it and Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, which is so funny because when I started doing this work 15 years ago, the word neuroplasticity was not a word that anyone knew. So that means that your brain is changeable. And at the time, it was kind of like pseudoscience. Like even neuroscientists were going, well, that's not really proven. Neuroplasticity is not proven, but it is now beyond, I mean, again and again and again. And so people actually know that word now. You know, I'll use the word neuroplasticity and somebody's heard it somewhere. We know the brain can change. And so it's really cool to look back and reflect on when no one knew that word and it really was kind of crazy out of the box, you know? But now definitely people understand it. It clicks. It's like, yeah, this makes sense. Of course. And I want to train my brain.
Yeah. I train my brain for sure. I've been trying it on my own for a while and it's a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
My brain is like, I love this because it just seems like just the idea alone that you are in charge, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you don't have to accept
Yes.
whatever cards that you were dealt. Like you can like accept it. I feel like I disclaimer, like you should accept yourself for who you are and appreciate that. But if it's something that is holding you back,
Yes, you can do something.
you can do something.
And people have not thought you could. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's I feel like I get to share like hope with people, you know?
Yeah.
Like
And this feels so similar in the way that I think about like cognitive behavioral therapy.
yeah.
And like a lot of that for me, is like brain training.
Yeah, it really is. It's changing your mindset rather than your skills. But because of neuroplasticity, your brain being changeable, it absolutely is effective.
That's interesting. So we know that cognitive behavioral therapy, we have known for years and years and years that that is hugely impactful on people and that it's effective.
Yes.
And it's interesting now that the neuroscience is sort of backing that up
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
I love
It's just the difference in, mindset versus skill functioning.
Mm-hmm. And if you're a person that maybe therapy, if you're struggling in life and maybe you're struggling at work or something like that, or struggling in any kind of aspect and you feel like there's something about the way that you think or the way you're processing things that's holding you back and therapy feels too heavy, or maybe you have things in the past that maybe you don't want to like dig into, maybe this would be like a good option to help reframe things or to start to kind of change your brain a little bit.
And one of the things I really enjoy doing, so when we do an initial evaluation with someone, we do testing, and it's a nationally standardized cognitive assessment just to kind of look at your strengths and weaknesses and skills. And then I sit down for a consultation with you and review those and then make recommendations. And I am very into listening to what will be helpful for this person. I don't always recommend my brain training program. If there's something else going on, I really rely on my referral network of partners to go, I wonder if you would consider cognitive behavioral therapy, because it sounds more of, anxiety, overwhelm, or even neurofeedback therapy, which is a different thing. It might be different than just your functioning. And if I can show that all your skills are functioning well and there's something else, I will refer you to the right thing, So I like being able to help people look at themselves and do kind of a scan and then offer ideas and advice and recommendations, not just go, oh, that's a problem, but like, here's what we can do.
Right? Offer solutions.
Yes.
Would you say you have a lot of entrepreneurs that you help with?
Yes, and not all, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with have had struggle in school and learning challenges for sure, whether it's either on the high end where they're exhausted and overperforming, or on the low end where they like can't read still,
Yeah.
And so that's definitely where my heart is. Those are the kids I work with that kind of make it through and slip through the cracks and then become, they are. I love when they find a way to creatively use their brain for an entrepreneurial endeavor. I love it, but there's still struggles there. And so I would say that probably 60% of my adult clients are entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Like I need help figuring this out.
Yeah, and then we also work with traumatic brain injury, and on the aging side, both of my parents are brain training right now.
Yeah.
I've got them started.
I mean, I send my mother your way, I think.
It's there becomes a time. I actually read a study today. I just shared this article on my page about new research is showing that the age of cognitive decline is starting at 44. 40.
Wow. I'm almost there.
I know. Dear. Oh, but luckily I know what to do.
Exercise. I believe that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And everybody listening that's over 44 will believe that. too.
Is it, do you think there's any kind of, is there a difference between men and women? Do you recall?
There certainly is in that. I don't know in that particular study, but there is a difference in, male and female brains in lots of different areas, and I actually have tested and worked with a lot of husband and wife teams. And that's always really fun because they live kind of similar lifestyles and do, different things. But I find that a lot of times, I've had this happen 3 different times with a couple where the man tested a little bit lower than the woman in cognition, but she was way more concerned about it and he didn't care.
Sounds about right.
I know. So it's kind of like, the confidence with these men with lower scales is like, I'm good.
Well, that's the thing about, men. It's like they just have no one has confidence or audacity like a straight white man.
I think the women are more likely to be overachievers, and hold high expectations. They are typically doing a lot for their family and for their, they're doing a lot.
Yes, we do. We do a lot for a lot of people, and we are always thinking about others
and all the scenarios. And, I joke about you start training your divided attention as soon as you become a mother, because you've got to literally be able to multitask like a crazy person to the point where it gets silent and you have to go, wait, why is it silent? You have to be paying attention to that. So there's, so many different natural avenues that you can train certain cognitive areas or get practice there.
Yeah, totally. So what do you have going on at the center?
Well, so this summer, this is one of my favorite things we do in the summer. We have a summer reading bingo challenge, and this is for kids and adults because we encourage reading. That's a great way to get brain exercise and practice. And so we partnered with a lot of local businesses that have coupons for, maybe it's a free Chick-fil-A sandwich, duck donut. There's like an Italian ice. There's Crave Discovery Museum, Chattanooga Football Club, Lookouts. We have Zen Nail Spa, all these business partners. And when you read in a special way, so we have a bingo sheet that's available on our website, and you do 5 different things in a row, you bring it in, you get a coupon from a local business to go do something with. And we're just really trying to encourage summer reading. And so that's a lot of fun. It's a great way to support lots of local businesses right around us. We're located right by Hamilton Place Mall, so we have a lot of business connections just kind of in that area. And our website where you can find the bingo sheets is learningrx.com. You just have to go to the Chattanooga location to find those. And so that's a fun thing we're doing this.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I need to get back into reading. I go through such seasons where it's like, here's the problem with me. I hyper focus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will read a book or a series and just
be super into it.
So it consumes me.
Yeah.
Consumes me. I will just be so into it. I get lost in the world of it. And so I often will find myself intentionally not picking up books because I'm like, I don't have time to be consumed by a fairy fantasy world. So, but I am working very hard within myself about learning the concept of balance.
Yeah. We are.
And so I do want to, because I think I enjoy reading. I definitely do. And I think it helps avoid the mindless scroll. It gives me something to sort of do.
Yeah.
That is not.
Yes. That's something we have to be very careful about because we we know that this mindless scrolling is not good for us, but it's just increasing and increasing and increasing. And we have to be very careful about that because, when we start relying on all this visual and auditory stimulation, we're literally training our brain to require all that. So it makes reading a book more boring. It makes having a just normal conversation more boring. And so, our attention span is getting lower and lower as a society. And that's something, again, we have to pay attention to so that we can make sure we don't atrophy. I mean, it's happening and we have to prevent it.
And that goes back to what we were talking about, I feel like at the beginning, in this idea of valuing humanity and like allowing progress to occur and move forward, but also valuing things and what it's like to be human and valuing growth in all areas and not just the area that makes money, which is important.
Yeah.
But valuing all the things and being well-rounded
Yeah.
individuals, I think is important. That's something that's lost on a lot of people.
There's a lot more to life than just kind of what we do. There is a lot of personal growth. There's a lot of relationships. There's a lot of connection. And it's hard for me. I really think like our purpose on this planet is to connect with other people. And when you go to an airport and nobody's really talking and everybody's in a cranky mood and they're going somewhere and they're in a hurry and it's just like a weird, like really low vibration place. And I just want to like turn to somebody and be like, I don't know, just talk about something, yeah, smile or, just connect. And I feel like that's why we're here. And it's really hard when we have a lot of divisive social media, and news and those kinds of things. So it's something I think about being more and more intentional about.
Yeah, and like recognizing we are a community, that it's not just like an us versus them kind of thing, and recognizing that you should care about your fellow man and you should care about like lifting everyone up.
Yeah. Not live in fear.
Yeah, yeah. Because I love the concept of, kind of like what I was saying, but the idea of valuing us as a society. And like, I feel like what you're doing there at the center sort of is impactful on that. Like, the idea of training your brain in a way that is useful, not just for like how you make money, but just to like be a more engaged, well-rounded human being.
I feel that way about it. I don't feel like it's a business per se. It is my passion work, and I feel very lucky that I get to do my passion work. But, even with a lot that's going on in the world and people, often being like, what are you doing about this going on, this going on? And I feel very strongly that, back in the day in our communities, we were part of our community. We didn't know what was going on around the world, or we didn't need to. They need to know what's going on in their part of the world. We all need to take responsibility for our community on a local scale and know where we are and what we can bring and contribute. And so I'm not going to be talking about other things that I don't contribute to. I'll be talking about education and like the brain and these things.
And you can be so much more impactful within your own community than you can.
Yeah, I think so.
Like
yeah.
all these other places, like I can't impact what's going on the other side of the planet in any kind of like really meaningful way. I can very much impact my neighbors as
and it's important that there are people there doing the same thing.
Sure, right?
Yes, like I want everyone everywhere to feel that way so that they can impact their place locally. But yes, like so it's separate but together.
Yes, yes. And it's not to say that you don't care, but like you said, if we could snap our fingers and everybody thought about their own community in that way, I wouldn't have to worry about what's going on the other side of the world. I wouldn't they would be taking care of themselves, right? Kind of thing, like it's not from a place of like not my problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very hard and tricky, but again, if each of us can take personal responsibility for how we show up in our community that affects the whole world.
Yeah. And that makes me feel honestly a little bit lighter because with what's been going on in the United States and politically, I have felt very heavy, like to be honest, and felt a little helpless and hopeless. Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of negative things happening that I don't feel like I have the power to impact, but I do feel a little more empowered that I can impact the lives and the people locally.
Like locally, right here, right?
Yes, right.
You're connecting with other business owners and having these conversations and people who are a part of this community. And, again, just thinking about this collaborative effort, this mindset of working together, I think is, even if we're not talking about it, bleeds over into
Yes.
or whatever areas because we want to be together,
Yeah.
and I just, that's where I've been like, again, trying to be just intentional about thinking about who I'm connecting with and how I'm connecting and, knowing like there's not an us versus them. Like we're together.
Yeah.
Be together.
We're all on the planet together right now in this season. Like, let's figure out how to be a light, how to bring joy, how to be helpful, and how to bring positivity.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. Totally.
You're on it.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
Okay. Just somebody alert the media. We fixed it.
Solve the world's problems.
Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. If you want more information about what Michelle does and everything she does with the brain training and the learning center, we'll have all of her information linked down in the description. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.